Yo guys, what's up and welcome back to Marvelous Chats. My name is Finto. Today I'm joined by my good buddy Drunkie and we are reviewing Star Wars Visions. The entire season came out on Disney Plus and we binged the whole thing. We did it all in one sitting and we're going to go
Oh
through it.
yeah.
We're going to go through each and every episode with you guys today. Drunkie?
Yeah, I'm excited to be talking about Star Wars Visions. I totally didn't realize that they were dumping all of this on us at once. I thought this was going to be like a week by week thing, like kind of what if, but it all came out at once. So I think like all the other like Star Wars fans, I just kind of like plowed through the thing in a couple hours. And I'm excited to talk about it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Between all the hosts of Marvelous Chats, myself and Drunkie, we're definitely the biggest Star Wars fans in the bunch. So I said we got to get together and break this stuff down. So, guys, if you like what you see, make sure to hit like on the video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. We do a lot of Marvel content, some DC content, and we're going to be doing we're going to be covering all the Star Wars content going forward. So let's just jump straight in, I think. So the first episode was called The Duel.
The Duel.
And personally, I say Duel, sorry. that's the
Jules.
that's the accent. So yeah, basically, I think to be honest, this was probably one of my favorite episodes, if not my favorite episode of the series. So there's there's 9 episodes in total. This was probably my favorite one. What did you think yourself, Drunkie?
I loved it, man. Like, I think it's pretty common knowledge, and it's not like a informational take to like tell people that Star Wars and George Lucas is heavily inspired by like old samurai movies, the Seven Samurai, stuff like that. And this seems like the most like direct, like talking to that time period, talking to that genre of film, where it's a black and white samurai movie. There's a Ronin in a village, and someone comes to town, and like I'm just like you. This is one of the best ones. They started this thing off with a bang. Yeah. It's a little bad that they started with this one because it was so good and it set the expectations so high for the rest of the series.
For sure.
It was amazing, man. It was like the art style, the combat, the choreography and the fight scenes and how they use lightsabers, man. Woo!
Oh yeah, I loved the Japanese style. I loved that there was like the R2 unit kind of had bamboo and stuff on him, and it was just so good, dude. Like I really loved it. And there was
on R2. It's so good.
It was phenomenal. I loved that. As like one of the notes I had here as well, I loved the kind of black and white, but it wasn't fully black and white. Did you notice that? Like there was, any kind of electronics, the lights would light up red or green, or and obviously the lightsabers as well. Yeah, I thought it was very well drawn and very well executed. And again, to go back on what you were saying, it was a absolutely fantastic start to the show. I think we see an amazing kind of lightsaber duel, which like some crazy umbrella style lightsaber, which then turns into a single blade. So I like how creative they are with it, and they're not kind of stuck to the universe at all. It's kind of just let's just get crazy with expression. And I think that's one of the things. I'm not a massive anime fan myself, but I can see the value in it. And I think when you get something like Star Wars, you couldn't pull that off in a live action movie. I think people would be looking at you crazy. I think like General Grievous in episode 3 was wild enough, with the 4 arms. Like I think if you did someone with like an umbrella lightsaber, I think that would just get absolutely crazy. I don't know if it would be well received, but in this medium, it's perfect. It doesn't matter. You can kind of do what you want. So loved that. Loved it was very similar, I found, to like the Obi-Wan versus Anakin fight in episode 3. It kind of mirrored that in a lot of senses. And then I loved kind of at the end of the episode, you didn't know whether he was good or bad because he turns on his lightsaber and it's red and you're like, oh my god, he's a Sith. And then it's like, it turns out he's collecting kyber crystals. So the kyber crystal collection seemed to be a theme that was behind every single episode of the show, I found. So like I thought that was crazy. I don't know why they focused so much on the crystals in pretty much every episode. Every episode was either about building lightsabers or collecting crystals. So that was definitely the main theme of the show, I thought. So
I think that has to do a lot with like Japanese culture, and especially like samurai culture, where everything comes down to the weapon. Like it's not so much inner strength and stuff like that. Like there's a spiritual sense to these weapons. And I think like the creators over there really love to lean into that.
Yeah.
And what goes on with the kyber crystal is it's like literally like a soul, whatever, like in this crystal, like it is deep meaning.
Yeah.
And so I think they want to do that. And what you were saying about him collecting these red kyber crystals and you not knowing if he was good or bad, like I thought that was done just brilliantly. The way they messed with your expectations, where they set it up, the main bad girl, the female Sith who looked amazing in this, by the way, and was like a complete badass. They even name her, like, she pulls out her red saber. One of the town's guys, like, it's a Sith.
Yeah.
And so you think this Ronin, who you've been kind of set up for the last couple of minutes, is going to be a Jedi. He goes and pulls out his lightsaber, and it's red. And it's like, you're off to the races in, bro. Like, anything could happen in this episode.
Yeah.
It keeps the tension high, like you said. Like, he's there standing with the villagers. And even then, I'm like, dude, is he going to, like, kill all of them? Is he going to turn on the village, too? Like, who knows, man?
It's crazy, dude. I really, really loved this episode. Definitely the top for me. I think I don't know if there was any episode that was better than it. So yeah, massive thumbs up on this video for me. And I think definitely. 100%. What did you think of episode 2? Episode 2 was called Tatooine
Rhapsody.
Yeah.
So going into it, it said the word Rhapsody, and I'll be honest with you, I really don't know what the word Rhapsody means, but I know it has to do with, like, Queen had a song, Bohemian Rhapsody. So I kind of was like, is this gonna be like musical? Sure enough, it turns out it's musical. It has this whole setup of, a Jabba the Hutt. There's a Jabba-like figure who, a Jedi during the fall of the Jedi, like, jumps into his thing, and they go on to form a band.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, as much as the Duel was cool and had me pumped, I'm like, this is the Star Wars series I've been looking for.
Yeah.
This one, like, just reached down to my soul and yanked all of that out, because I sat through that and I was just like, what is this, man? Like, I if I'm a kid, I might think that's cool. I might think it's awesome. But as an elder Star Wars fan, it wasn't meant for me. I don't think it was. I didn't like it. I thought the artwork, although the artwork style wasn't my flavor, I think it was very well done. Not really sure what the story was all the way through. They set up a couple, like, they set up some stuff that I don't feel like they paid off. Like, Boba Fett's there and he doesn't even fight. Like, I don't know, man. What do you think about it?
Yeah, like, I think going from the first episode to this episode, it was like complete opposite vibes. It was very childish, it was very fun and playful, whereas the first episode was very dark and very serious. And I think I fed into the first episode a lot more, obviously being a kind of original Star Wars fan. Whereas I think you're very right in what you're saying. I think the second episode was definitely kind of geared towards a younger audience. I'm a big fan of music. I love music, but at the same time, the episode I wasn't very excited watching it. I was kind of asking a lot of questions, like, clearly you saw droids and stormtroopers and or clones, sorry, and then Boba Fett's in it, but he seems to be an adult. So I'm like, where is this sitting in the timeline? I don't want to go too deep into the whole Star Wars lore, because I don't think that any of these episodes are canon. But if there's an argument for any of them being canon, it's this one. This episode, obviously, we've got a lot of Star Wars characters in it. You've got Boba, you've got Jabba the Hutt, you've got some of the other bounty hunters that you've seen in, like, Empire Strikes Back and stuff are there. You see you see droids in the episode, although they are destroyed. So I'm kind of like, is this episode 4 timeline wise? I'm not exactly sure, but seeing Boonta Eve, the pod racing track, and obviously is it kind of brings back good memories for me from episode 1, because I always loved the pod racer scenes when I was a kid, and I always thought that those were amazingly shot scenes. Like, watching them in, like, 1999 when the movie came out, I was just like, wow, like, it was just like,
now that's pod racing.
Yeah, it was CGI that was just done incredibly for its time. And, like, I'll never forget seeing that for the first time. I was about the same age as Anakin when I watched it in the cinema, and like, it was just blew me away, like, that they could do this stuff now, because I was obviously growing up to that point watching the original trilogy so much, that when you started seeing, like, some actual, like, CGI, it was just crazy. So for me, if I was going to give any kind of positive points to this episode, it would be just the kind of throwbacks to the original trilogy and to the prequels. But the story itself of the episode didn't really interest me too much. So yeah, I don't know, it was a bit of a gimmicky episode for me. I'm not going to say thumbs down, but it's definitely not even half the episode that the first one was.
I'm a fat thumbs down to this one, man. Like this thing was like like when they were doing the rock concert and they're singing and doing the song. It's like with Cosmic Hero, like borderline cringe. I'm just like, I don't like. I want to call up my niece and be like, I got a perfect show for you. Like, turn this on. You're gonna love it.
Yeah. I think we could pretty much swiftly move straight on. I think, like I didn't want to be mean about it, but I think it is a thumbs down for episode 2. So we go into episode 3. Episode 3 is called The Twins. My first notes on this was I really liked the animation style of this one.
Yeah.
And I just loved the kind of like they even mentioned like in this episode Force visions. And I started to think that, maybe like all of these episodes are just visions within the Force, and obviously hence the name Visions. So I was like, maybe there's going to be like some sort of underlying story that these are all just visions that are viewed within the Force, maybe by Yoda or somebody, a great master or something, is just looking into the Force and seeing all of these potential stories that were told in the past, because a lot of them seem to be pre-movies.
Right.
You know, so I was kind of thinking maybe there's going to be an underlying story. So I wouldn't have been surprised at the very end if we saw Yoda sitting in the temple kind of meditating or something, and that's where all the stories came from. I thought that would have been actually a really cool way to end it. But that didn't happen. It was obviously, each episode was definitely its own kind of story and potentially its own kind of universe. I suppose it's kind of like Marvel's What If at the moment. I think there's just so much, like, it could be a multiverse. I don't even know if that's what they're trying to get at or not, but that's definitely how I felt about it watching it. Another thing I had another note on it was the Kyber crystal armor was kind of a crazy idea. So it was kind of like the dark troopers that they had in The Mandalorian, but they were suits that people could wear, and then they were obviously powered by kyber crystals as well. So like I was like, this is wild. And again, kind of back to my previous point, with anime, you can just kind of do all these crazy things, and you don't even have to really explain it, or people are just there to watch it. It's a crazy show, and people are just like there to watch it, you know. So like there was a lot of stuff in that episode that was just, again, wild. Like there was a scene where the male Jedi, the twin, the boy, when he's fighting back against the sister, decides to take out his lightsaber and like shoot off into hyperspace, but he's just standing on a X-wing. Like, and then
it's wild, man.
Yeah, and he uses the lightsaber to chop the Star Destroyer in half. I'm like, this is crazy, bro.
Yeah,
but it's enjoyable.
It's probably that scene alone. It is probably my favorite scene I've ever seen from a Star Wars thing ever. It was just over the top. It was ridiculous. It's like you said, because it's anime, like it kind of fits. Like they can do this. Yeah. Like having someone standing on the tip of an X-wing and their droid boots it into hyperspace so they can break the armor off of the villain and they're just standing out in space. Like it's like Princess Leia, the Jedi power in space. They're just standing there, no helmets. They're just out in space being wild. Yeah. This was the one that like I was sitting there thinking about how much of an uproar you can see on Twitter of all like the Star Wars, like the hard lore nerds being like, this can't happen. This is not going to be possible within the universe.
He's out in space without a mask and everything. Yeah, like I was looking at it like that, and then I kind of had to take a step back a bit and just be like, okay, look, it's anime. We're here to have fun. You know, let's not get too serious. You know,
and I think this anime. I think this is the best drawn anime out of all of them. It's my favorite art style.
Yeah.
It feels like the most spiritually close to where Star Wars comes from, which is that 1970s sci-fi Flash Gordon style. It just feels light and it feels kind of playful at times.
Yeah.
I really like the setup between it's called the twins because the brother and sister are twins. It's almost like Luke and Leia, but if they were like created by the Sith, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I was about to make that comparison too.
Yeah, there's so many parallels. This kid looks nothing like Luke, really, but like he feels so spiritually like Luke for some reason.
Yeah,
there's nothing but hope inside of him. He's got a family member who's like deep into the dark side, and he doesn't give up on him ever. Yeah. I adore this episode. This is my favorite one. They can make an entire series about these two characters. And I would watch it, and I think this is the most creative they've been with Star Wars, and I just wish Disney would hire some of these people for ideas.
Yeah.
Because their creativity inside of this episode specifically is like, I could see them, Star Wars, going this way, rein it back in a little bit, but just let them be creative. Let them do cool stuff with armor. Like just let them go nuts. Like putting two Star Destroyers next to each other and then like connecting them with the engine thing. Like I loved it, man.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. There's one scene in it as well, which I think was in the original trailer, but when the two of them are using their force lightning, and it's just like artistically, it was just beautiful. It was like the red on one side, the blue on the other. The clash of light and dark side. It was just beautiful. Like it was stunning to look at. Definitely, one of the top episodes. And I took note of it earlier, but in my head, and I forgot to write it down. But there was actually I think it's Neil Patrick Harris was one of the voices in that episode. I was looking at the voice cast, and pulled it up there because it's actually crazy. The voice cast for this show is nuts. Simu Liu is a voice in it, who played Shang-Chi in Marvel and everything. And there's a crazy cast for this movie. Like David Harbour's in it. Our boy Twitch's own Jordan Fisher's in it.
Fisher.
Yeah, dude. Like it's crazy. There's like a crazy cast in this, and it was because I noticed a couple of voices while I was watching it, and I was like, that voice is very familiar. So I had to go and look up the cast, and I was blown away by some of the people in it. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, a couple of people I think people know the voices are Alison Brie from Community. She's in there.
Yeah.
Boba Fett's actually voiced by the actor who plays Boba Fett, Tamara Morrison.
Yep.
Lucy Liu's in this. Yep. Joseph Gordon-Levitt's in this, who he probably plays the boy in this episode we're talking about.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big cast, man. There's a couple other people who I don't think that you would know their name, but you would know their voice if you saw it with their face.
100%. What's his name? George, the guy from like Star Trek and stuff. I can't think of his surname. Oh my god. He's one of the big characters from Star Trek back in the day. He's in it and everything. It's a really big cast.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, it's great. Like, and I think that really shows kind of what people like. Just gives the show weight as well, like on how good it is, because you're getting like such like class A Hollywood stars to actually like lend their voices to it. So it really speaks volumes to me that like how successful the project is. Just
definitely,
yeah, 100%. Like, cause like your people like this, like like Joseph Gordon-Levitt, like someone like that isn't going to sign on for a project like this if it's terrible, So I think that speaks volumes. Absolute massive thumbs up for me for this episode. I really, really like this episode. As I say, there was a couple of gimmicky things in it and stuff that didn't make sense, but I just didn't care. It was so stunning. It was so beautiful to watch that I was in for the ride completely. Yeah.
Thumbs up, big thumbs up. Twins, probably the stand-up episode for me. Probably only second to the Duel, maybe. It's like a toss-up between these two for me.
Yeah, for sure. There is a couple of, like, there's one or two more episodes that I really loved as well, personally, and we'll get into them as we go forward. But episode 4, The Village Bride. What did you think of this one?
I was a pretty big fan of this one. I thought the animation style was probably the most like classical anime looking one that we got. Maybe there's one later on. I forget the exact name of it, but this was probably a very, very strong looking anime that I think a lot of people would be comfortable in watching this one.
Yeah.
It was gorgeous. The character design was great. I thought the story was pretty fantastic. How they it dealt with like after the Separatists, after the Clone Wars and all that, like kind of the end of war where people kind of use the weapons of war that are left behind to like kind of oppress people. That was a pretty cool take on it. And then the one of the coolest storylines you can ever get in Star Wars that they use over and over, like the hidden Jedi who's just there, and then will they expose himself and reveal himself as a Jedi to do the right thing, or won't they? Which is always like a great storyline for me, no matter how many times they use it.
Yeah,
I love it, man. This is a great episode.
Yeah, 100%. I think it was the first episode that they actually mentioned the Empire by name. So I was kind of like, oh, okay. Like this is interesting. Because I think they mentioned about like repressing against the Empire, and there's a kind of back and forth with the townspeople and stuff. And I really liked as well. There was a great scene in it where they had the droids from the from the prequel trilogy, and obviously they had reprogrammed them to reuse them, and I thought that was very clever. So obviously, most of the show's based in the Empire era, but it was great to see some of the droids back. So, it's kind of fulfilling, passionate people of the prequels and the original trilogy is obviously, it's giving people what they want within both, because I know Star Wars is definitely a very divided community. There's prequel fans, there's OG fans, and there's sequel fans. So, There doesn't seem to be people that are a fan of it all.
Yeah.
There's definitely people that are one or the other, and then there's people that don't even recognize the sequels. So, it's I thought it was cool. I liked the yellow lightsaber. It was like a proper like
Ooh,
shaped
yeah.
like a katana as well. Did you notice as well the main dude who was working for the Empire? I can't remember his name, but he flies in on what looks like a modified version of the Millennium Falcon. Did you notice that?
Yes.
I thought
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty crazy. I had that I
Yeah,
had that in
that's
my
really
notes.
cool.
Yeah,
Because like the Falcon is like just kind of a standard, like the model is based on, it's like a workhorse type of vehicle. They don't
yeah,
really establish it outside in the movies, but
yeah,
it's like a pretty standard transport vehicle. And then it's just like, the Han Solo and Lando, like they kind of modify it over the years to
yeah,
make it a real smuggler vehicle.
yeah,
So seeing like modifications of that, I will look at like Falcon modification vehicles all day long, man. I thought it was really cool.
yeah. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. For me, it wasn't one of the highest rating episodes, although I did enjoy it.
Hmm.
It was kind of sat in the middle somewhere for me. Like again, I'm not gonna diss the episode, but I wasn't very excited watching it. Like I enjoyed the difference in animation style with this one, but at the same time, yeah, like it was one that I wouldn't go back and rewatch if I was rewatching episodes of the series.
Little slow in the middle, like real
Mm,
slow, and then they the end of it I thought really picked up. It gets into this whole like respecting nature, living off nature deal, which
yeah,
is hit or miss. Like sometimes it just gets a little boring for me.
yeah,
Let's say that 100%. And but yeah, like her lightsaber being yellow, and then it has like that like almost like a hilt on it that has like the yellow glow around it. Like oh my god, man! Like I want that one
that was
at
beautiful.
Disney. I'll go buy it at
Yeah,
the theme parks. Like that was a badass saber, man.
hell yeah. I think a lot
And
of
then
sorry, go
her
on.
shoes light up. Her shoes
Yeah,
light up with
yeah.
their saber color. I don't know what that was, but I loved it. Like,
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think like for sure what's going to happen now after the creation of this show is a lot of these like custom saber building companies, like the guys that I buy my sabers off, they're definitely going to start building all these hilts. Like it's going to be crazy.
yeah.
So I think I may have to I'll have a look, I'll keep an eye on them, but I think I'll have to get something built because they're just beautiful. It'd be a
Hey,
great
get
one to
ready for the
have.
Ninth Jedi.
Yeah, it'd be great to have. Um, yeah, so I got to move into episode 5 because episode 5 is probably the one I have a lot of notes on as I was watching it. For me personally, this one is probably top 3 for me. I absolutely loved this episode. I thought it was fantastic. Um, the the episode is called The Ninth Jedi. And basically, the kind of story of this episode is that again, it seems to be during Order 66, is what I'm understanding, or maybe it's not. We don't really know. But basically, the Jedi seem to be almost but extinct. A group of Jedi come together because they've received a beacon. When I first heard this, I was like, "Oh my god, is this like going to be referencing Obi-Wan Kenobi's call out to the remaining Jedi in Episode 3?" I thought this was going to be really linked to the original or to the prequel trilogy. Turned out it obviously wasn't. But again, I think it's meant to be, but at the same time, not. I think I noticed a lot of um kind of references or like ideas pulled from the movies, but like kind of changed and adapted into anime to fit these stories. Like there's definitely like fight scenes that like kind of mirror Obi-Wan versus Anakin, and like in this episode, I feel like it's like Order 66 and that whole vibe, and it's like the Jedi are trying to rebuild and trying to come together against the Sith. But then there's so many Sith that it doesn't make sense because obviously, in the movies we know it's only Vader and it's only the Emperor, but then the Emperor isn't aware. But obviously, Vader in like the books and in like kind of extended universe goes out and starts creating the Inquisitors, which have now become canon and so on. So, I don't know. Like I don't think it's canon, but at the same time, I think it's very much referenced and very much influenced by those movies.
Yeah, it definitely feels like it's pulling from those and kind of speaking to those movies the
Yeah,
most. I would say out of all the episodes in this entire series, this is the one that probably feels like it could be made in live action, and then it kind of like fits into the Star Wars world proper.
yeah,
The whole deal, it's got like a lot of almost spycraft in it. With, are you really trusting who you're talking to? It's all this underhanded stuff. Who can you trust? Who can you not trust?
yeah,
And then on the other side of that, it's talking to this whole idea of, well, where are they going to get their lightsabers from if they're going to become Jedis? and it has to do with like someone who's a creator of lightsabers. He's kind of like a blacksmith, if you will.
Yeah.
And it has to do with him and his storyline with his daughter. So this is like the only one that kind of has multiple storylines going on and a subplot going on behind it. And I think that's why it works really well. And it is the longest one because of that. It's like 23 minutes, I think, sitting at.
Yeah.
And every aspect of it was like just amazing. I loved every part of this thing.
Yeah.
I could definitely watch this anime if they extended this one out. If the main Jedi character in this one, I could watch that character. The kind of who would be his apprentice now. I could watch that character. Like it's a great cast. It's a great story.
Yeah.
Animation style was gorgeous, and it really did feel like the most grounded, if you will, like in Star Wars, if that's even a thing you could say.
Yeah, there's so much about the kind of Jedi and the lightsaber lore that I loved in this episode. Again, some of it to the diehard Jedi, like, and diehard Star Wars fans, it might get a bit iffy because, like, part of the Jedi's training is that you build your own lightsaber. You don't have a Jedi, like a sabersmith build it and give it to you, Yeah. And I know it's desperate times and so on, but part of the, like, I don't know, like, I know you hadn't watched like the Clone Wars, but there's episodes of that where like Yoda takes the little Padawans to the one of the Jedi temples, and they basically find their own kyber crystals, and it's a whole mission for them. You have to the kyber crystal comes, like, speaks to you, and then you have to construct your own lightsaber, and it's part of becoming a Jedi Knight. Whereas this kind of changed that, and I think it's changed for the purpose of it being just desperate times call for desperate measures. But again, I didn't really understand it at the same time, because I'm like, these guys all seem very well trained in the Force. Could they not just build their own lightsabers? I don't know why they needed somebody to build them for them. So for me, again, I absolutely loved the episode. Like, the lightsabers changing color per user and stuff. Like, I love that lore. Like, that's just that's perfect for me. Like, I don't like when a lightsaber is a color and that's it. They're supposed to speak and connect in the Force with the user. So, like, I loved that the daughter's one was kind of grayed out, and it turns green. She turns into a Jedi Guardian or whatever. I can't remember what the colors mean, but loved as well that there was a purple one. And I know, like, Mace Windu's story is that he is a Jedi, he is a good guy, but he has the ability to use the dark side and use it for his own means. And that's why his blade is purple. And I like that they referenced the guy who was using the purple blade at the very end. He's kind of told to snap out of it, and he's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Everybody's influence. There was so much evil around me. I kind of consumed me a little too much." I really loved that. I thought that was thought that was fantastic. Yeah, definitely massive thumbs up for me. If I was this episode has serious rewatchability for me. Like, I would watch this one again and again. I think it's brilliant. 100%.
Yep, yeah. Loved the episode. Thumbs up.
Yeah, 100%. Episode 6 was called TOB1, and I don't know. This one was probably, for me anyway, personally, this was kind of like the most out there episode. Again, the animation for this one was just completely different to everything else, which I liked and didn't like at the same time. I thought it was definitely very expressive and interesting, but for me it was kind of a little hard to watch it. It was nearly too childish. Every episode up to this point has always been about collecting the kyber crystals and stuff like that. I noticed it again. This is pretty much the entire storyline is just about getting crystals and trying to revive planets and stuff. I thought the storyline was pretty cool. It was kind of nearly like I got a bit of like a kind of Pinocchio vibe off it or something, nearly like, and it was very Disney. I think this episode a lot more Disney than other
it definitely
episodes.
was like solidly set in that like very fantasy kid looking vibe. And like you said, this might be the most technically best, like, artistically, like, this might be the best made art in this entire series. Just because it breaks the mold on what it means to be in the Star Wars universe, what it looks like, even what it means to, like, just do illustration and animation. Because it's absolutely gorgeous. And you said you got a lot of Pinocchio vibe. Personally, I was pulling a lot of Mega Man vibes from this one. Where, he kind of has like a main guy who's like the professor who creates this robot, and then he wants that robot to dream of being bigger and being a Jedi and be the person to save the world. And just I was totally pulling like Mega Man from this. And I love the animation style of this. I don't think I could watch it that often, but it kind of rode the line between almost being like in style wise, like the shapes and stuff, like felt almost like you're living in the DBZ world. There was a lot of like round buildings with like little tiny rounded spikes coming off of stuff, like very cool.
Yeah.
But I felt because the animation was so cool that the storyline just kind of felt like it took the back seat, and I didn't think the story was really developed that much.
Yeah.
And really that impactful, and it was like fun. It was good to look at. It was like it's like a drink you want to drink once. You're like, oh yeah, that's interesting. I don't think I could drink that ever again. Like,
Yeah. You got to try it.
yeah, you gotta try it though. You gotta try it.
Yeah,
But yeah, the one and done is enough for me.
Yeah, one of the things that I did see that it was definitely a standout of the episode was when it was a droid, right? It like that was the child was a droid.
Yeah,
and
which it just dawned on me in this that it's like T Obi-Wan.
Yeah,
like I just
yeah.
totally over my head until now.
Yeah, I know. It was like when I was reading the title, I was like T0B1, but then in the episode he's like T Obi-Wan. I'm like, oh, okay, I know what they're doing now. But the one thing I did definitely like about it was there's a part in it where the droid uses his other droid is like helper droid as a jetpack. He just jumps on his back and like morphs into a jetpack. I was like, that is like anime at its best right there. It's just crazy. This like I loved it. I loved as well. I think I've got a bad feeling about this was kind of dropped into most episodes in like some very funny and clever ways. And I thought that was one of the things I think I laughed when because I think one of the droids says, "Oh, you have a bad feeling about this, do you?" or something. Like it was kind of very, very, very funny, very, very witty. But yeah, it's kind of mid-tier episode again for me. Maybe one of the lower episodes. It would be probably if I was to list out all the episodes and rank them, I would need to think about it a lot. But this would be probably towards the end of the list, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I agree with that. Like, I can't thumbs up or thumbs down this one because it was so interesting to look at. But like, it's like the Emperor meme where like he's in the middle. He's like holding his hand up, thumbs up or thumbs down. I don't know. So.
Yeah. 100%. Episode 7, I think, could be this one for me is top 3.
The Elder,
yeah. This episode 7, the Elder. For me, this one was just like kind of classic Star Wars. We start with a master and an apprentice. They're on a mission. It's very much they're wearing the Jedi robes that we know and love. The Padawan, who's actually voiced by Jordan Fisher, has the Padawan haircut with the rat's tail and the ponytail in the back and all. It's very kind of, when I was watching this, I was thinking this is probably very close to episode 1 in the timeline if we're going there. As well, they kind of explored the Outer Rim, which is something we hear about very little in the movies, but we hear about a lot in other Star Wars content like Legends and the games and stuff like that. So it was nice to kind of be out in the Outer Rim and kind of see what's going on out there. And I think it was, as I'm kind of trying to make sense of the show, I'm thinking like, oh, maybe a lot of this is based in the Outer Rim, and that's why we don't know these characters and stuff, because it's like, we haven't explored this part of the galaxy yet, so that it would make sense that there's a lot of like Sith and Jedi out here that we just haven't even seen, because like the Emperor and Vader and all these people have no interest in the Outer Rim really. It's just it's cowboy land out there. They just kind of leave it for them to do what they want. So it would make sense that there's all these worlds that we haven't seen. So I thought that was a nice touch that they used the Outer Rim.
Yeah, and I really love how the Elder kind of touched on that for you real quick when like he talked, like the Padawan asked him if he was like a Sith.
Yeah,
and he said he didn't like the Sith. He didn't have time for them, even though he was like trained by them, and it's obvious because of his lightsabers and his skill. He wasn't a Sith. He wasn't part of their order or whatever it is.
Oh yeah, like he's been like he's been deformed nearly by the dark side. He's that dark side, I think the Master mentions, he's like, I've never seen somebody like that who's been so manipulated by the dark side. So, he was a dark side user absolutely through and through for his entire life, but he doesn't consider himself a Sith. So, I think there's a difference between dark side and Sith. Sith are obviously like, and I suppose Ahsoka is probably a good example of someone who's a light side user, but she's not considered a Jedi. She leaves the order. And that's why she kind of, that's why her blades go white, because she kind of is outside of the order. So I thought that's cool. I really liked, like, there's a lot of stuff I liked in this. There was kind of throwbacks to the older animations with the lightsabers and the rain, with the raindrops bouncing off them. I just love that stuff, bro. I eat that stuff up. Absolutely love it. I kind of felt a definite kind of Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon vibe from the Master Apprentice. I thought that was really well done. Yeah, so like for me, this is probably top three. Really, really loved this episode. The animation was very clean, very beautiful, and it the animation to me like felt kind of not too kind of anime style, if that makes sense. Like it was kind of very easy to follow. It wasn't too wild. It was very clean, and
It feels like a like an Adult Swim anime from like the 2000s. You know, it's nothing
yeah,
too far out there for people. It's very almost
yeah.
like a samurai shampoo. You know.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Because like I'm personally I don't watch a lot of anime, so for me it's a lot easier to watch episodes like this than to get too crazy into. And this is probably why I didn't like episode 6. You're saying the episode like the animation was incredible. You loved it. I know you're more of an anime fan than I am, so that episode probably spoke to you a lot more than it speaks to me. I'm kind of just I want animation that kind of nearly looks real, if that makes sense, like more to more accurate to the actual content that we know. So that's why the Elder, this episode, like really spoke to me. Like I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I mean, this episode, the storyline of this, I think this almost did the best job out of all of them at setting up the stakes and actually placing you as a viewer, feeling like you're in danger. When the Padawan separates from his master, something could go wrong. The Padawan's the first one to encounter the Elder. Never a good sign in Star Wars when that happens. And they set up those stakes and they kind of pay him off and like establish how good the Elder is. And then the fight scene between the Jedi Master and the Elder is like one of the coolest things ever. I think every Star Wars fanboy has like thought about the move of like turning off the lightsaber,
bro. It was in my notes. I was about to mention it.
On at another point, bro. It's like I think everyone has dreamt about that moment, and like actually seeing it.
It was
in
phenomenal.
Star Wars. Oh my god,
it was
bro.
so
like,
good, bro. So good.
Was,
I was I was about...
And when he destroyed the other lightsaber,
the
Elder fights with like two shorter lightsabers. The Jedi gets one of them off him and like throws it up in the air and like brings it back down and destroys it with his lightsaber. Like it was amazing, bro. Like the people who made this have been doing fake lightsaber fights in their house just like the rest of us for years, man. You could tell this was a dream come true in terms of lightsaber fighting.
Yeah, it was incredible. It was again, I had that in my notes. I was about to mention it just before you did, or just like I was about to mention it, and just it's when they like he's holding the lightsaber and it's like off, on, boom. It was just it was perfect. Massive thumbs up for me. Top 3, if not maybe for me. This one and the Duel are probably the best episodes. And then maybe for me like Ninth Jedi would be third if I'm thinking as I'm talking about it. I'm kind of trying to put them into an order, but phenomenal.
It's just the storyline. I love how they end. It's a very Eastern episode and story where they talk about like the Jedi wasn't a better fighter than this guy. He goes, "Hey man, it's just age. Like he would have beat me back in his prime. Age gets us all, man. Like it's the way of it."
Love it. Beautiful stuff. What did you think of episode 8? Episode 8 was Lop and Ocho.
Lop and Ocho?
Ocho, yeah.
Echo?
I don't know.
Probably the weirdest setup. The protagonist for this, you follow a alien who's like looks like a rabbit. I would say the world building for this one is probably my favorite world building out of the entire series that we're watching. I think the world they set up being kind of in the city, kind of having the stormtroopers, the way they look. I loved every part of this except kind of like the main character and the storyline they went with about her being like I don't know. I have weird feelings about this because like at parts I really love it, and then parts I really just feel like it's weird and it just doesn't fit. I do like the idea of like it being a family rivalry and like how the Empire splits families apart, right? Where like people side with the Empire and other people don't. Which, being someone who lives in the South here in America, you kind of understand that storyline pretty deeply. So I felt like that was a pretty cool storyline to explore. But I just felt like the main character being a rabbit alien, we've never seen this type of character in Star Wars before, and I think that just kind of threw me a little bit too much.
Yeah. For this one, I thought the animation was like really nice. I thought like for me, I was getting like real like Pokemon vibes off it. Just like the eyes and just the mouth and the facial expressions and stuff like that. I thought it was an interesting story. I liked how she was given, she was handed down the lightsaber, and it was, her, heritage that got it, even though she wasn't of blood. He mentions, like, family is family. It doesn't have to be blood. I didn't like. I thought it was a very nice sentiment and stuff, but then at the same time, I was like, was she a Jedi to begin with, or does she have Force abilities, or is it that like everybody has Force abilities and you just need to learn to use them? Because I think that's been mentioned before. The Force is in everything, but it's just people need to learn to tap into it. So I was kind of thinking,
Ryan Johnson's just sitting there like he's sitting there like the Leonardo DiCaprio meme where he's got a beer point and he's like, that's me.
Yeah, so like, I liked the premise of it, but at the same time it kind of takes away from the magic of the Jedi. People are chosen. It's not just, your dad was a Jedi and he has a lightsaber that's been handed down from his father and so on, so now you, an adoptive daughter, will be a Jedi because I say so. I just thought it was a bit strange, but at the same time it was a nice sentiment. Like, I just didn't think it really worked in Star Wars. But again, that's probably me going a bit too heavy on it. Like, again, we're here to have fun. So yeah, like, again, I really like the animation, like the storyline. The sister versus sister thing is always a good story. It's always entertaining to watch. So yeah, I thought it was good. But again, probably one of the lower episodes. I didn't really have many notes on it. I kind of just watched it, and again, I probably wouldn't watch it again. It was one of the ones that I'll kind of see it once and I'll just let it go. I'm not going to be revisiting it.
I think I'm going to have to give this one a revisit because I feel like these last two episodes, I was a little fatigued by this point, like watching so many different stories.
Yeah.
Because I feel like going back, I'm going to like this one a little bit more rewatching it. But just as it stands, you're getting through, if you watch this in one sitting, which is probably takes you about 3 hours to watch the thing all the way through this whole series, you're jumping from one idea to the next. And I think this one just kind of got bit by that burnout from me. Yeah, seeing the rabbit character and she's like, what are we doing here? What? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now she's okay. Now this is okay. So I want to rewatch it. But like, I still thumbs up because I thought it was gorgeous. Yeah. I thought the fight scenes were pretty good. I like the premise for the story. I definitely feel like I need a rewatch, but it's still a thumbs up for me.
My favorite part of the episode was literally when he presents her with the lightsaber. I just loved him unboxing it. Like, it's such a sacred thing. It's packed away. It's like boxed up and tied up and everything. I just thought, for me, that was just my highlight of that episode. I just loved how it was presented to her. I think that's it. I think that's everybody's dream as a Star Wars fan. That when you get presented with that lightsaber. I just thought that was beautiful.
You think they cut out the part where she like got that after he unwrapped it for her and she just tossed it over her shoulder into the river? She's like, fucking whatever, Dad. Like,
yeah, fuck this. Oh, let's not talk about that. Okay, so last episode, episode 9 is
Akakiri.
Akakiri, yeah, is the name of the episode. What did you think of this one? This one for me, I don't know. And I know you were saying you watched it very tired and you need to probably rewatch it.
Yeah. This one, it just like, it kind of felt like the most bland out of all of them. I don't know why. Like, nothing about this episode really hit for me. It just felt very standard, very slow, nothing too interesting. I didn't think the animation style was anything to write home about.
Yeah.
I didn't think the story was anything that was like overly impressive. It's always cool to have a, Sith-like Shogun as like the main villain dude, like cool.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I didn't think he was too intimidating of a villain. He didn't look like a real Star Wars villain.
Yeah.
I think something this show really did, or this series did well, is when they created bad guys, they created very menacing looking bad guys that were very authentic to the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
And this one just kind of didn't feel like it fit in Star Wars that much. So I don't know. It was like, it's an episode for me. This is probably my least favorite out of all of them, just because nothing really stuck out for me.
I don't have too many notes on this episode myself. I kind of got the feeling that this was kind of an adaptation or a kind of remix of the Anakin telling story. Especially with the sacrifice at the end. He gives himself to the dark side to save the woman that he loves, and then as well to kind of a spit on the grave of Anakin Skywalker, but they just do a force heal straight away. Like, he just saves her and it's like, okay, bye. Whereas, if they could have done that in episode 3, we wouldn't have got Darth Vader at all, So it's kind of just like, and again, with the sequel trilogy is one of the things I hated about the sequel trilogy. They just introduced forced heal just as the most blasé thing ever. It was just like, oh yeah, we could just use the Force to heal people, and it's like that is the entire story of the original trilogy. Like, you know, it's like he couldn't save her, and he turns to the dark side. You know, and it's like Plague is lying City is lying about knowing how to do it and everything. You know, so it's just. For me, it was just like, oh, I can't believe like they made it look so easy in this. Like, but it was cool. It kind of made sense. I'll agree with you. The animation wasn't anything to write home about. It wasn't amazing. And I found the music was kind of annoying in this episode. The drums were so loud for a lot of parts of it. Like, and I thought they were cool in certain parts, but I think they should have stripped them way back when we're kind of in the episode. Like, you know, as we're kind of like panning over stuff or during a lightsaber duel or something, absolutely throw the music in. I'm all for it. And I think the music worked really well in the outro. Like, as the episode ends, so as he steps up from his from the woman and he walks away, the drums start going crazy and it looks amazing. Just pans up to the universe or to the sky, and then the episode ends, and I'm like, okay, that was actually done really well. But in the middle of the episode and the start of the episode, there's just drums banging the whole time, and it kind of just really annoyed me, like, you know, because they were too loud. If they were lighter and kind of just in the background, I would have been like, okay, that's fine. But they were so loud, and I was just like, this is distracting. You know, I'm trying to watch the episode, and it's just all I'm hearing is just drums going off. Like, I'm picturing like aliens like smacking drums, like, you know. So for me, it was very off-putting. But again, the episode wasn't bad. It wasn't one of the best. I'd probably sit it somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I just again, almost like the last one, I think I want to go back and rewatch this one when I'm a little bit less fatigued by the whole series, because I just didn't find anything too interesting about this. It was okay. Like, it was done well. It's done by professionals who know how to do this thing at a high level. But like, it just next to all these other ones that were so unique looking, so interesting, it just kind of didn't live up to the rest of them.
Yeah.
And real quick, what with you talking about like the Force healing, one of the things I thought was hilarious is when you remember when we were watching the first sequel movie, episode 8 or 7, whatever, 7, and Kylo stops the lightsaber, or not the lightsaber, but the laser beam, the blaster bolt. He just stops in midair, and everyone in the theater like grabs their, like, oh my god, like,
amazing.
Something we've never seen. It was such a huge moment, and like everyone in this thing can just like stop lasers like it's freaking and nothing, bro.
The stun circles and everything.
Stop the stun circles. The duel, the guy catches a lightsaber, like, but with the Force, he's like, all this amazing stuff. Like, I'm like, dude,
there's a technique to that. Apparently, it's in Legends, as far as I know. I was watching quick shout out to Star Wars Theory. He goes so deep on all of this stuff, but he was speaking about the catching the lightsaber, and apparently that's like a really old, in like Star Wars Legends, it's a really old mastery of the Force, and this guy obviously has it, so it makes you think that this one was in the past, which was really cool. So like, what do you think? Do you want to see more Visions? Are you happy with just it being those 9 episodes and that being it? Is it a one shot for you? Do you want to see more?
I think, like, man, I would be okay with them not making any more. If they do make more, I'm happy to see it.
Yeah,
I would like them to pick one of these studio houses who made one of the best one of these and give them kind of a 5 series run where they can expand on their ideas and pull like a broader anime story together. Because I think they did a lot of really creative things with Star Wars that I think Disney has been kind of like just not that creative, and not that, you know, they don't take Star Wars to another level. They just kind of like push it along a little bit. But you know, if they didn't make another one of these, if they didn't make a Vision season 2, I'm not going to be missing it. You know, whatever. I think when they first announced this and everybody was kind of losing their minds. I remember I was live and streaming, and I was like, well, you know, okay, like, this is an anthology. That's cool, but like, I'm old enough to remember the Matrix anthology and everyone going nuts for that, and then coming on the other side being kind of like, okay, yeah, that's all right. It's fun to see these tiny stories.
True.
But for me, you know, I want to see broader stories that pull from everything. These little like nuggets of stuff, it's just not for me. I want to see bigger stories that connect to a bigger universe. So I don't know. What about you?
Yeah, like, I think if you were to, and I think you mentioned this earlier, and I think it's a brilliant idea, I think you take a couple of the biggest rating episodes, like the Duel, you take maybe the Twins, and then maybe like the Ninth Jedi and the Elder, like those kind of episodes, and maybe you expand on them in a second season, give us a bit more of that, or even go as far as doing a video game, or even like an animated movie, or even like a live action movie you could work. But I would love to see something like, could you imagine something like I don't know, like something like Mortal Kombat, but in the Star Wars universe, where it's
Oh yeah.
obviously not as violent, but that kind of style. And then you've got like Jedi's or Sith, or we don't know if they're which one they are. They're going around collecting kyber crystals of dead Jedi's and their dead Siths and stuff. I'm all for it. I think that would be absolutely fantastic. To double up on what you said, if they are expanding on this, I will absolutely watch it. I'll look forward to coming back on and talking to you more about it. So yeah, like I think the show as an entirety, I think is very successful. I think it's well worth watching. If you haven't checked it out, I think you should check it out. 100%, it's well worth it. It's on Disney Plus. 9 episodes. You do the whole thing in less than 3 hours. So big thumbs up from me.
Yeah, Vision's a success. I want to see, if we are going to do more like animated stuff from Star Wars, more hand-drawn animated, because I enjoy watching this stuff way more than I enjoy watching like the Bad Batch or the Clone Wars. I love the hand-drawn animation. It works. You remember the Clone Wars they did by the guy who did like Samurai Jack like way back in the day before they did the 3D stuff?
Yeah.
Like we need more of that, because I think they can do things that are a lot funner.
Yeah. 100%.
So yeah, overall, thumbs up for this series. Definitely worth a watch. Is it worth a rewatch? Maybe not. But there's some really cool nuggets in there I think people will really love to see. Especially if you're a diehard Star Wars fan, you're going to watch this. I think the people who aren't diehard Star Wars fans and don't like anime, this has probably got no home for them. But for me, thumbs up. I was pretty happy for the series as a whole. Just kind of 2 episodes didn't hit for me.
Yeah.
But it's pretty good.
Yeah, excellent. Guys, if you like the content, please hit like on the video, subscribe to the channel. My name's Finto. This is Drnkie. And we do a podcast on Fridays, and you can catch us every Friday. We usually jump into all the weekly stuff that's going on in the worlds of Marvel, DC, Star Wars, everything. We just cover it all. So thank you very much for watching the video. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.